Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. So on behalf of the City of Calabasas and the Public Works Department and the Environmental Services team, we're really glad to have such a great turnout. So my name is Curtis Castle. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Calabasas. And with me here tonight is our Environmental Commission, who we'll introduce in a moment. And we're also joined by several of our city council members. So if you want to crane your neck and turn around, we have Council Member Ed Albrecht in the back. Councilmember Alicia Weintraub. And of course, David Shapiro. I also see Dennis Washburn here, our first mayor. So Calabasas, we're really lucky. We're uniquely defined by our natural surroundings. We have beautiful open space and hillsides, the Las Virgenes Creek, the Santa Monica Mountains. These are not only beautiful, but they're essential to our quality of life. And that's why we're here tonight. They're essential to our quality of life, public health, and our long-term sustainability. As a city and a community, we take our stewardship of these features very, very important. We take that very seriously, and you being here tonight demonstrates that. This is a great turnout, so give yourselves a round of applause for being here. Thank you. We have a really engaging program tonight, but before we get started, we're going to take care of some city business. And with that, I'd like to introduce Assistant City Manager Scott Trujillo to talk about our sales tax measure.
Thank you, Curtis. And I promise I'll be very, very brief. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. I'll speak as loud as I can. Those of you that were here at 4 o'clock I'm not sure if I'm stealing the thunder here, but there was the awards for the calendar. Can I just tell you, who is here? I think some of the commissioners are here. Yeah. Okay. The first young man that was in kindergarten, he looks like he's probably 5 years old. And which one is Nathan? Okay, there was this cutest little kid. He's probably maybe comes up to my waist, comes up to the podium, and starts describing his artwork. But so I'm standing in the back next to Curtis, and it's one of those things where you look at each other, you're like, "You're crying, I'm not crying." It was so cute. It was so precious. Such a great moment. I will be brief. Give me about a minute 30. I'm kind of get down to brass tacks and keep the bottom line. So it's just a quick public service announcement. So as you may or may not know, the biggest thing going on in the city right now is a sales tax measure. Now, we've been gearing up as a city to go on the November ballot. We've been doing this for several months now. However, what happened in the heat of the night, the county of Riverside decided to go after the same money and do a half-cent sales tax measure in June. So Calabasas being Calabasas, the only city in LA County, to my knowledge, that was so nimble and able to put things together, we actually are going to do a standalone special election in May to get ahead of the county to keep that sales tax local. So you'll see, if you're a resident of Calabasas, you're going to see this yellow envelope. It's the mail-in ballot coming in. Those get mailed out, I think, first part of April, but it's going to be distinguished with this yellow colored envelope, and it's a mail-in only. You can't come in and drop off your ballots and so forth, to the best of my knowledge. So anyway, that's what I have for you guys. Is that it's coming. Again, we thought we had a long runway to come talk about the sales tax measures to the community all the way through November. The county came in and said, no, we're going to go in June. So then we said, okay, well, we're going to go in May. So of the 88 cities in LA County, they're looking at Calabasas going, how did you guys do that so fast? Well, our council did that. So looking out for this community. So with that, if you have any questions on the sales tax measure, all staff are happy to answer questions. But back to your regular program. Thank you so much.
All of this comes together with a lot of hard work from city staff, but the vision comes from our Environmental Commission. So we're going to take a moment to recognize your Environmental Commission. So we'll start with our chair, Larissa Burns. Vice Vice Chair Randy Feilish, Commissioner Whitney Schwartz, King and of all student wrangler David Cohan, and our newest member Susan Ng. Okay, we have a good program here, and so we're going to go into some other city updates, and I'm going to hand it over to Melanice. She did all this legwork for this, by the way, so give her a round of applause.
Thank you, Curtis. And I just wanted to say thank you to our Environmental Commission for leading this effort. This has been something that the Environmental Commission has adopted for several years. And our subcommittee, made up of Vice Chair Randy Feilish and Commissioner Whitney Schwartz, have done an amazing job of pulling off this wonderful program. So without further ado, I'd love to give you some updates on our city programs here in the city of Calabasas. So our Environmental Commission is made up of 5 Calabasas residents who are very passionate about environmental topics and 1 non-voting student member, and he's in the room somewhere. It's overseen by the Environmental Services Division. This team has led several initiatives, including the Bags for Benches plastic recycling, which is being recognized on the March 10th Environmental Commission meeting, as well as the Pencil to Planet High School Art Contest. That's an extension of the Community Recycling Awareness Contest. Additionally, we have the Carl Gibbs Environmental Excellence Award, which is awarded annually to a deserving member of the community here in Calabasas. If you have anyone in mind that you'd like to award that's doing amazing environmental work within Calabasas and beyond, those applications are due the 4th Wednesday of October annually. Lastly, we host a series of environmental events annually, including the Environmental Forum that you're here at today, Arbor Day, Earth Day, and periodic creek cleanups. Next, we have our Community Recycling Awareness Calendar. We have a few available in the back if you'd like some. We have quite a few resources in there, such as e-waste disposal and such, but 14 students from K through 8 LVUSD schools are selected, and this year we received 1,500 submissions. So we're really grateful for that. Next, organics recycling. How many of you know how to recycle your organics? By show of hands. And it's okay if you don't. This is a new effort that's underway. So about 40% of our total food supply is actually wasted each year, and that could be from being spoiled in your fridge or just not eaten. So CalRecycle, which is the large entity in the state of California, has mandated SB 1383, which requires us to separate our organics waste before going to the landfill. So it goes into your green bin instead. And if you are interested in requesting your free kitchen pail, you can reach out to WM. There's a phone number here, or you can visit us at the back table at the Public Works table. We'll give you some resources. Next, we have hydroseeding along Las Virgenes Road. Back in 2024, we completed the Las Virgenes Road Green Streets project, and a recent effort was hydroseeding the entire hillside. So you could see the beautiful lush green hillside in the photo below, as well as the before and after. The project included paving a previously unpaved shoulder and creating 144 parking stalls, as well as 10 bioswales that actually filter the stormwater before it's discharged back into the storm drain system. Next, we have water-efficient irrigation improvements along Calabasas Road and in our Old Town Calabasas planters. So these have been retrofitted with drip irrigation rather than overhead sprinkling, and this uses 30 to 50% less water and also helps increase the roadway longevity. So next time you're in Old Town Calabasas, take a look safely, if you're not driving, at the new drip irrigation that we have. And this was an effort that was led by our Landscape Maintenance Division. Now we have our recycling program. So if you're not aware of how to dispose of batteries, we actually have a robust program here at the City of Calabasas where you can receive a battery box for free, collect those batteries rather than putting it in your junk drawer, and actually bring it to one of 7 city facilities where we have a disposal program. We also have free e-waste pickups and water-based paint and oil pickups. So if you scan the QR code here, we have quite a few resources that you can take advantage of. We also have a flyer at the back table. Next, we have our upcoming events. We have Arbor Day, that will be in March, and then our famous Earth Day, that will be in April, and we hope you'll all join us. And if you're interested in joining an upcoming Environmental Commission meeting, here are a few upcoming dates. You can get involved. Each of these meetings have a public comment section where you could share any questions or feedback you may have on the environmental realm with us. We hope you'll join us. And lastly, I just wanted to highlight all of our wonderful exhibitors that are here. Please feel free to take a look around at the end of the program and visit all of the wonderful tables. We have the Malibu Creek Docents, Monarch Fellowship, California Native Plant Society, Native Monarchs, Las Virgenes Municipal Water District, Poison Free Calabasas, Roots and Shoots, Pencil to Planet, and the Girl Scout Silver Award candidate Dahlia. We also have Malibu Monarch Project. Yes. Okay. Fantastic. And without further ado, my name is Melanie Stepanian, and I am excited to introduce you to the Environmental Forum. I will call up our subcommittee made up of Randy and Whitney. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We are so excited to finally get to our panelists for Butterflies in Bloom. We're very thankful for all these groups to come. There's 4 experts here on everything, and Whitney's going to introduce them. And before you all leave, we do have free milkweed packets, and we hope that you will take advantage of it and start your butterfly garden. Whitney, do you want to introduce everyone?
Thank you, everyone, for coming. This is an amazing turnout. And thank you, panelists, for being here. We did a run through with the panelists before a few weeks ago, and the takeaway is that this is a crisis, and every one of you here can make a big difference. You can make a big impact in this community, and we're really looking forward to having you learn from these experts. So we'd like to introduce our panelists. We have from the Monarch Fellowship, Ari Silverman from the Monarch Fellowship, and we have Chris Ament from, who's the founder of the Native Monarchs, and Sasan Shibani, I'm sorry if I'm saying this incorrectly, president of the Malibu Creek Docents, and Mary Montez, horticulture co-chair from the California Native Plant Society. Each one of these experts are absolutely going to blow you away. They have so much information to share, and they're all very inspiring. So we welcome you.
So my name is Ari Silberman, and I'm from Los Angeles, California. It is, okay. I'm a big nature lover, and that led me into environmental conservation. I recently earned my master's from the University of Wisconsin-Madison just a couple years ago. So before we get into what the Monarch Fellowship is, I'm just gonna give you a little background on monarchs. So monarchs are the only butterfly known to make a two-way migration similar to birds. The North American populations are defined by their migration patterns and overwintering location. The eastern monarch, that's what generally you hear about, that goes from Mexico all the way up to Canada and back down to Mexico, and they do it over 4 generations. It's pretty miraculous. The western monarch, however, generally overwinters on the coast of California, at approximately over 300 overwintering sites along the coast. And then once it gets it warms up and they leave their overwintering sites, they fan out through California, up to Oregon, out to Nevada and Utah, and down to Baja. So, and they have been known to intermingle. Monarchs are dependent on 2 things for survival: milkweed and native plants bearing nectar-producing flowers. Many insects have a plant that is an essential food source for their larval form called a host plant, and they're called specialists, and milkweed is the host plant for monarchs. The caterpillars feed exclusively on milkweed. That's what the monarchs lay their eggs on. So adult monarchs feed on the nectar from flowering plants to build up their fat reserves before migration and during the long journey to the overwintering sites. Western monarch populations numbered around 4.5 million in the 80s. And the decline is pretty horrific. You can see back in 1997 to 98, that big drop. And then there was a horrific one in 2020. The Xerces Society is the pollinating experts in California. They are the one who do the overwintering count. And they published a shocking tally of only 2,000 monarchs counted across all sites surveyed in California in 2020. So I've been on some calls, and one scientist said, oh, the next year they did rebound to 200,000, but it's still very critical. This year, in 2025, it was 12,000 and something. So, and it's been fluctuating. And a population cannot go from 2,000 to 200,000, so most likely, a lot of them just didn't overwinter. There's not a lot, they're trying to figure that out, like scientists, there's tons of research, but it's still critical nevertheless. So when monarchs reached record lows, I decided to act, and I started to give away milkweed in my area. And when I started this, there wasn't a lot of milkweed out there, or native milkweed anyway. And Home Depot and Lowe's, they give away like tropical milkweed, which is pretty controversial. So, and honestly, I couldn't grow enough. Tons of people were wanting it, and my project progressed, and then I realized monarchs were representative of a much larger problem. It's very ironic that Chris is sitting next to me because when I started this, I knew nothing, and she was who I would call in Ventura, because I found her online. So research, I actually went to an amazing native nursery called the Payne Foundation. And I was telling this lady there about my initiative, and she just read me the riot act. She's like, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, if you just plant milkweed, that's not good enough. And she's told me about this like massacre where monarchs were eating each other because all they had was milkweed. Somebody planted a ton of milkweed. And I was like, okay, I got to do some research. But I was pretty passionate to do something. So that led me to Bringing Nature Home by Douglas Ptolemy. If you want to learn about native plants and pollinators and how to help, this is your guy. He is at the university, he's a professor at the University of Baltimore, I believe, and I actually tried to apply for his lab, but he said he didn't have any money, but he did reply to me. And he's a really cool guy. He's got videos online. This book is essential. And in this book, he lays it out that we are now in the 6th great extinction with enormous global decline in insects, amphibians, and birds. Population growth has fueled unprecedented development that continues to sprawl over 2 million additional acres per year. That's the size of Yellowstone National Park that's getting developed every year. So NASA estimates also there are 40 million acres of lawn that exist unnaturally in the US. Lawns are dead zones that do nothing to support local ecosystems. We also have 50,000 non-native plants, that's 50,000 types of non-native plants from all over the globe that burden our landscape. Most native insects cannot eat these plants, so they cannot sustain any life but their own. He says it's not enough to just have protected areas anymore. To reverse the trend, we have to take action where we live, work, and play. So he says there is a solution. He challenges homeowners to create biological corridors right in their homes by predominantly using native plants that support local ecosystems. So if you go up to like these pristine neighborhoods in Hollywood Hills, which we all revere, I was up there and I'm like, there are no native plants. And I became a native plant snob. And I'm like, I could never live here in these mansions. And it's pretty ignorant. Like the native or the flower of Los Angeles officially is the bird of paradise, which is those beautiful orangey, like they look like little birds, and that they're from Argentina. So it goes to show you what, like there's a lot of ignorance out there. So that's when I created the Monarch Fellowship. And that brings us to where it is today. So our goal is to inspire homeowners to plant native gardens through community action. And we let the iconic status of the monarch butterfly lead the way. So here's how the initiative works. Basically, I give away free native seeds to volunteers across California who we call hubs. I provide these hubs with free seeds after they complete a mandatory training video on how to manage their role and take care of their seedlings. Once trained, hubs grow plants and provide neighbors with starter kits to begin their native pollinator patches. We ask that hubs encourage recipients to plant at minimum a 5 by 7 foot native pollinator patch to support local bees, butterflies, and birds. So last year I sent seeds to about 700 people. This year I built a new website, and so once hubs sign up and they get their seeds and they're growing, they're invited to register on our interactive map. This allows prospective recipients looking for the plants to locate nearby hubs and sign up. So that isn't active yet. I'm about to activate it. And everyone that signs up for free plants is going to have to watch like a cute little video explaining the problem and the solution, what they can do. So, and we have right now I sent seeds this year so far to 270 people around California. And then recipients are encouraged to use their free plants to begin their native plant journey. So this is our hub map. Not all the hubs sign up on the map, but so there's about 60 on there that have signed up so far, but I've sent seeds to 270. So some recipients will be able to click on a hub and just sign up. So this is hopefully what they'll do with their plants eventually. Then they'll be invited to also register their garden on the map. So once they plant their garden, they can register it on the map, and they can also buy a pollinator patch sign, and they'll also have access to seeds and more information. We have how to plant a pollinator patch on the website. They can buy native seed libraries where they can, hubs, a lot of the hubs have native free seed libraries, so they can offer seeds to their neighborhood. So we have this all in the shop, along with t-shirts. And then hopefully, since I just launched this website, soon people that register their pollinator patches, all the hubs will be able to see all the pollinator patches pop up around them. So they'll be able to see the fruits of their labor. So this, when I first started giving milkweed, somebody texted me in my neighborhood this, and it was very satisfying knowing I was the great granddad of this monarch. And this is some of the pictures of our hubs. Right now we have about 270. And some people go all out. They put up tables, they print signage. We have like a hub specific site, and then we have a general site, and they post pictures of themselves giving them away and their neighbors coming. And lots of different people do this. We have schools, we have classes, we have Girl Scouts doing it for their badges. We have individuals, businesses, nurseries, botanical gardens. Pretty cool. And then that's one of our more successful hubs. It's a girl that did it for Girl Scouts in Glendora. And she now grows plants for her whole neighborhood. And she has like a menu and a sign-up sheet. And she has them schedule times when they can come. It's pretty cool. And here's more plants. So basically, we're trying to just get people active in their communities, getting people to plant native. And this is some of the plants, the native plants that we are giving away. And from top left to right, that's gum plant. The one up there is California buckwheat. You'll see a lot of that in the California hills. Goldenrod is a fantastic, that's the one on the far right. That is a fantastic pollinator plant. That's Clarkia, quite beautiful. And my favorite is a lupin. We have several different kinds of lupins. So for those interested in being a Monarch Fellowship Hub, you can go on the website and sign up. Soon, come March, we're pretty much done with doing nectar plants because those you start in fall. So milkweed season's coming up. So you'll be able to do the training and then order free milkweed and plant it for your neighbors. And here's our QR code if you'd like to scan it and go to the website, get all the information you need up there. And the video's not up there yet for that people will have to watch to get free plants, but it will be soon. And that is all. Thank you very much.
Good to see everybody here. Good to see Ari, because it's been years since we talked, and we're inspiring each other about monarchs. My name's Chris Ament, and I am the founder of Native Monarchs, which is a nonprofit based in Ventura County, dedicated to creating habitat for monarch butterflies, but also protecting existing habitat. So we're putting new habitat in. I have a lot of slides here. I'm going to go kind of fast, but this is an opportunity too. I can, for other community groups, that I can make presentations and we go into this detail a lot more. But it's a lot of the stuff that maybe you haven't heard about. It's a hard truth about trying to get the monarch butterfly to survive all the way, from starting from milkweed to the migration to what you do in your yards and what you shouldn't be doing. So we'll get into it. I have to throw out a disclaimer that I can't cover all this in 15 minutes, but the things that I thought were really important that we'll touch on is habitat loss, because that's the #1 driver of the population decline. So 95% down since the 1980s. Interestingly enough, that in the 80s, that's when Roundup came onto the market. As Ari talked about the Western monarch count. The 2025 Western monarch count was just announced, and it is just over 12,000 butterflies, but that is the third lowest count in history. The first lowest count was in 2020 that Ari talked about, where we hardly saw any. there has been delayed federal protections from the federal government that were supposed to roll out in December, and they have delayed it. So there are no federal protections, unfortunately. We're going to talk a little bit about native versus tropical and the impacts there, and then also threats to the coastal wintering sites. I know we're in Calabasas, but our coastal wintering sites are very important for our migrations, and more so in California that they are being destroyed by developments. So that's a really important issue that we got to talk about. And then I'll talk a little bit about really practical landscaping steps that you can do in your yard that anybody can do. And I'll show you some pictures of some of the habitats that I've created. And then lastly, and you can check out my table back there when we're done, I have an innovative conservation funding tool that is through milkweed seed oil that I'm using as a conservation tool to fund my nonprofit. And you can come back there, you can try some samples. There's sets available, and so you can come back and see that. But really, it is urgent. If we don't change what we're doing now, the monarch butterfly is going to probably be extinct by the year 2080. So we need to make some changes. And there are a lot of groups doing a lot of good stuff, but there are still people in the same mindset that we need to kind of educate. And so hopefully this helps you guys. I'm currently teaching a class at CSU Channel Islands, extended learning class about the monarch butterfly. So this is my first class for the spring semester. So hopefully I will offer this class in the future, but you can either be in class on campus or you can join online. And then these are my two companies. The nonprofit is Native Monarchs, and the beauty company is Monarch Botanica. A little bit about me. I came from the medical field, so I was diagnosing cancer for about 25 years in the microscope, which probably where my tendency to like bugs came from because they're small and unnoticeable, but cells are like that in the microscope. So I left that to pursue something that I wanted to make a difference in kind of the planet, and found myself basically raising native milkweed because I couldn't find it enough, and installing habitat wherever I could find it. Most importantly at Sterling Hills Golf Course in the midst of the pandemic. When everything was shut down in 2020, I asked the golf course if I could put a monarch habitat there, and they said yes, as long as I did it and I paid for it and I didn't ask them for any help. So, but I put it in, and I'll show you some pictures there. I'm also the 2025 Nonprofit Partner of the Year for Channel Islands University, which was a great honor for me. I work a lot with the students there, the professors there, and we have 2 or 3 habitats there as well. So I'm going to move through this really quickly. We know why pollinators are so beneficial, and we know that they basically pollinate crops that produce $20 to $30 billion worth of products annually. The monarch is an umbrella species, so when the monarch starts to experience problems, so do the other insects that pollinate. And so it's not just food, it's supporting food quality, nutrition, and global food security. We pretty much have seen this in every biology class you've been in, but the one thing that some people don't understand is that the average lifespan of monarch butterflies is usually 2 to 6 weeks, and that is from March to September. But when you get into the super generation, and that's the ones that overwinter on the coast, they can live up to 6 to 8 months. So that's a big difference. They're bigger butterflies, they have more fat stores, and I'll show you the difference between breeding habitat and overwintering habitat as well. This is just a size difference. I think the one note I wanted to tell everybody, especially when you're raising native milkweed in your backyard and you see caterpillars moving away from the plant, resist the urge to put them back, because they're actually going to be molting. So they actually take off from the main plant to stay away from predators. They're very vulnerable, but they're going to molt, but they usually do it on plants away from the milkweed. So every time you see a caterpillar, don't keep trying to put it back. He's going somewhere for a reason. So leave him alone. This is just kind of the Western monarch cycle, and Ari talked about the super generation. The one thing I really want to stress here, and I'll say it in a couple other slides, is that the super generation is the overwintering generation that needs to live through the winter. They are coming to find a place that's warm enough where they can survive the cold. And pretty much that's at the coast. So there's no frost there for the most part. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to put any kind of milkweed, native or tropical, within 2 miles of an overwintering site. And that disrupts the migration. So they're supposed to be in pretty much a hibernation state, but they're active. So they're eating nectar, they're drinking water, they're staying up in the trees, but they should not be mating. And any kind of milkweed triggers that mating instinct, and that's what you don't want, because they want to protect their fat reserves so they can make it to the next generation and leave those sites when it starts to get a little bit warmer. This is really interesting as far as the scientific data that we're learning right now, and this has just been out, and this is the MODIS tracking system. So scientists back east have been putting radio tags on monarch butterflies, which is about the size of a grain of rice, and it's the equivalent of maybe having a 20-pound backpack on you. It seems like a lot, but you can kind of see that they're now tracking, starting in up near New Jersey and in Kansas. And just recently, I think the first 2 monarchs ended up in Mexico. So this is incredible, because when we used to use paper tags, we used to basically know where they started. And then if we found one at the end, that was great. It was like reading the first page of a book and reading the last page of a book and not knowing what went on in between. This shows you what goes on in between. So if you ever want to look this up, this is Project Monarch, and this is the MODIS tracking app. Talking about overwintering sites, this has been in the news since December. This is a verified overwintering site. You can check out every overwintering site in California on the Western Monarch Count, and basically put in overwintering site map, and it will show you basically all of them. They're numbered, and it shows you historical data of how many monarchs we've counted there in the past if we've monitored that site. This is Vista Del Mar in Ventura, and unfortunately, it was slated to be sold and developed as housing, but they did not realize in the beginning that it was a monarch habitat. So once a group of us told them, unfortunately, it was the week before Christmas, the owners started cutting the trees down. So I think it was, I know it was a kind of a blatant act to basically erase this monarch overwintering site to develop it. And we were able to stop it after about 8 trees were cut. There is now a stop work order, and actually the Ventura City has put a ban in place until they get a mature tree ordinance in place to protect this for monarchs and also for other wildlife, which is good. Heads up to them. This is a very text-heavy slide, but what I want to basically say is that there is no federal listing that was supposed to come out at the end of the year. So the federal government has basically said we're going to delay the threatened proposal for a year or maybe more. This is, and you can kind of see it started in 2020. And basically we've been going back and forth that the monarch needs protections, but there is nothing really in place. The monarch butterfly is not protected. It's not endangered. It's not threatened. The only place it's endangered is in Canada. So that's kind of a misnomer that people don't really understand. But delaying protections, we know, doesn't stop the decline. It only allows it to continue and get worse. We talked about no milkweed there in the overwintering sites, 2 miles from Ventura County line and south. So here would be kind of 2 miles in LA. And then when you get closer to Santa Barbara and north, it's 5 miles because they have a lot more overwintering sites there. But really, eucalyptus, people say, why not just plant native trees? It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. The eucalyptus has been here since the 1800s. Monarchs have adapted to it, and basically just trying to take out an 80-foot eucalyptus tree and planting a native tree does not work. So the canopy is different. A lot of the native trees, the redwoods, the Monterey pines, the cypress that the monarchs use early on, they're having problems with the heat. They're having problems with pests. So there aren't as many of those trees around in groves. So they're just not there. When people ask me, why, eucalyptus, it's a non-native. I point them to this scientific data and this paper. And it's a really good point to say that you can't just restore a site using only native trees. It has to have eucalyptus in it. So that's why we have to save them. And I know, um, flammable safety risks and things like that. But when you have a management plan for eucalyptus trees and habitat that's monarch habitat, you actually mitigate that risk. So you cut down on the fire, the flammability, the safety risks, but you have to manage it. And a lot of our eucalyptus groves are not managed, and I think that's problems with the fire and why it was so. But everything's going to burn when it's 80-mile-an-hour winds. This is my milkweed nursery in Camarillo. And it basically, what Ari said, it's the only plant, it's specialist. And but here you're located in Calabasas, so that's considered a breeding site. So we're far enough away from the coast where you can plant all the milkweed you want, you can plant the nectar flowers, and you don't have to worry about disrupting the migration. But this is a great place to be for a breeding site. In Ventura, since we are so close to the coast, I'm coming up with a no milkweed zone map, which is basically a 2-mile radius around some of the overwintering spots that people don't really realize. Unfortunately, most of Ventura is probably a no milkweed zone. It isn't until you get up into the foothills that you can have breeding sites, but for the most part, these are the areas we need to concentrate on. We need to protect these areas, and that's kind of what part of my mission we're working on. And lastly, as far as rearing that a lot of people do, this is has been changed by California Fish and Wildlife is now illegal and needs to have a permit. So scientific collection permit is needed, and I don't even know if they've handed out any. But it's bad practice to keep raising them indoors because they can have viruses, they can have bacterial infections. And one thing that people really do is most of the time they're raising it on tropical milkweed. Tropical milkweed, when you have it's too old, it has a parasitic spore that lives on the leaves, and a lot of people don't realize that. So you're actually feeding a parasitic spore to the caterpillar. The adult monarch butterfly is emerging completely infested with these spores. This is basically declining their life expectancy, and sometimes their wings are deformed too. I already talked about the mid-season count, but you can see how that map there, it's just almost nothing. Starting in 2020, we had a little bit of a bump, I think because we had a little bit of rains, but then it dropped down very severely. The eastern population from Mexico is going to be coming out in a couple weeks. This is also important because the eastern population was down a lot, but they had a little bit of an increase this year. So when you see stuff on Instagram right now and there's looks like millions of butterflies, it's not really, but it is a significant increase. So we're happy to see that. But unfortunately in the West, it's not the case. And the West is kind of spiraling downward. I had to bring this up because we just had the Super Bowl, and this is not something that I made, but the Center for Biological Diversity made a really good point about consumer demand and having consequences for monarchs. I didn't really realize 18.5 gallons of water is needed to grow one avocado, but I think it's a good message because what you buy basically shapes what survives, and I think that's pretty good. You can see here in Mexico, this is what's been clear cut for avocados. And this used to be forest in Michoacan, Mexico, where the biopreserve is. There's illegal logging, there's legal logging. But all in all, my point takeaway is basically support certified sustainable avocado programs. A lot of California avocados are grown here that will work. A little bit about tropical milkweed, and I'm just going to touch on this because this is a whole presentation in itself. But I talked about the spores. So the older the plant is, the more spores there on it. And basically it's being deposited by the monarch butterfly. Think of it as glitter on the abdomen of a monarch butterfly. It jumps from leaf to leaf, and it's leaving a little bit of that glitter every place. Problem is the caterpillars are eating it, and now they're infected. The organism actually multiplies in the gut of the caterpillar, so then the the adult monarch is born with those spores. And that's kind of the outcome of what the wings look like when they're infected with the OE parasite. And tropical milkweed can also be all yellow. Doesn't have to be the red and the yellow, but it can be all yellow. That's tropical. That's how it basically replicates in the gut of the caterpillar. And that's basically what they look like. So a lot of times these aren't monarchs that have just fallen down and got stuck somewhere. Most of the time, they don't have the energy to pump the fluid into their wings because they're so weak. And when I said people raise monarch butterflies and release them, and they're raising them on tropical milkweed, if these are infected, and a lot of times they can look perfectly fine, but they are released and they're mating with wild monarchs. So now you're really diluting the gene pool as far as the strength and the ability to migrate. I'll just go through real quick and show you some habitat pictures. This is some golf course habitat that I put in at Sterling Hills Golf Course. And as soon as we put in the milkweed, we had documented breeding sites. So that was exciting. You can put a lot of other plants in there. You can put a lot of succulents in there. Those are actually protective plants. The butterfly puddler is a way for it to get water. Monarchs, bees, where they don't drown and you don't have a full dish of water, but basically it's enough moisture for them. Then we have habitat at Channel Islands University. And we've got projects for apiculture, bee biology. Students actually planted plots of pollinator habitats rather than write research papers. And they did a really great job because that soil is not easy to work with. And then we planted a milkweed crop just to show that you could actually grow it and then harvest something from it, not only seed pods for propagation, but the seed oil that we use for some of our products. And then we have a collaboration with Santa Barbara Zoo, who's going to be building a conservation center there in the next few years. I think they start. I had to put this up because we just put in a camera in our owl box, and we just named the 2 owls, and they've started to lay their eggs. This is a really good point, only that when you have habitat and you don't use any chemicals, a lot of times you have rodents. So this is something that I've been installing in all my monarch habitats is owl boxes from the Barn Owl Box Company. So we're excited about this. So then some of the plants, you want to think outside the box that you can have in a monarch habitat. You don't have to have all nectar plants. You really don't want to have all nectar plants, but you want to have some structurally sound plants that the caterpillars can have protection, the adult monarchs can have protection, and also provides winter nectar. A lot of these succulents are winter bloomers. Some of them are blooming right now. So this is a good thing to have in addition to the nectar plants. And then here's a really good kind of a menu for a small area, big area. But I use a combination, natives, non-invasive ornamentals, and succulents. Calabasas is 10A, 10B, the zone that you want to plant on. But these are pretty drought tolerant, and will pretty much bloom all year round. This is a little bit of a schematic that I show people. I go to nurseries. I show them how to plant monarch habitat in small areas. You want to do your drip irrigation first, put in your rocks, put in your big plants, and then come in and put in your milkweed. There's an M there, a green M for the milkweed, and then your other nectar plants. And then I have a list, kind of a tried and true list that I use all the time for, that it basically has been the most successful, where I see the most insects on these plants, because the nectar quality of these plants is really high. Also puddlers. You can make your own puddler with a saucer. Sand, rocks, and bees and butterflies, even small birds will go there for drinks of water, but they won't, like bees won't drown in there. So you can make that. And then I'm working on a solar puddler that holds about 5 gallons that you can put out with beehives. You don't have to refill it all the time. And it stays pretty much clean because it's got a lid on it. Also, the same habitats you can use for monarch butterflies and pollinators, you can use for re-landscaping after wildfires. And some native plants like the ceanothus is actually considered a heat shield because it pretty much kind of melts and doesn't burn, and will come back. But great plants. So we know the tropical or the native milkweed looks kind of like a weed, and this is one of the main problems of why it's always getting pulled out by your gardeners or people that think it's just a weed. That's pretty much how you kill it. You can mow it, it will come back, but if you pull it out at the base, it's done. And this is kind of this is before I weeded it and after I weeded it, but you can see it kind of gets lost in the weeds. Tropical or native milkweed won't bloom unless it's 2 years old. So if you have plugs and you've watched it grow for a year and you wonder why it's not blooming, it's because it's not old enough, usually after 2 years. And then touching on a little bit to this milkweed to market mission, in Canada, they have a whole milkweed industry where they basically harvest the fiber, and make gloves and bags out of it. There's one company in the U.S. that makes bedding materials out of it. But you really need a lot of milkweed to do this. And it's not really feasible here because the land is too expensive for farmers to do this. But what I have found out is that the non-viable seeds that I had from my growing operations, I did some testing and I found that it came out to be a really great moisturizing oil. So I thought kind of that was my aha moment and my no-brainer to make a funding tool to fund the mission for the nonprofit. And that's where Monarch Botanica basically started. So you can check out the ingredients on that at monarchbotanica.com. We've got videos on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And then also we've started the 2026 donation campaign where I've donated a lot of the product, the inventory that I have to my nonprofit. And when you donate, you get that set. So rather than just commerce for buying a set, this actually, I'm taking 100% of all the donations and putting it right back to the nonprofit. So I need to raise the money, I need to protect these sites, and I need to start getting more habitat in the ground. So sorry, I went over, but thank you.
Oh, wow, what a beautiful place. How many of you guys been to Malibu Creek State Park? Raise your hands. All right, how many of you been there this year? Okay, one very few. All right. So, good evening. My name is Hassan Shabani. I'm with the Malibu Creek Docents, and I'm going to tell you a story about a project we're doing at Malibu Creek State Park. And hopefully you'll figure out what it has to do with butterflies. So just give you a context, we're part of Santa Monica Mountains. The Santa Monica Mountains recreation area is roughly 240 square miles. The mountain range is right there, and we're right about here, Malibu Creek. Malibu Creek State Park, here's the address. It's on Las Virgenes Canyon. It's part of the Malibu Creek watershed, which is about 100 square miles. And most people think it's just a little area you go and park there, but it's quite large. It's about 8,200 acres. It runs all the way down Malibu Canyon to Malibu Lagoon. So all of that is part of the Malibu Creek State Park. And the park basically opened 50 years ago. This is our 50th anniversary for the park and the docents at Malibu Creek. In 1974, the purchase of Fox Ranch, Reagan Ranch, and Hope Ranch is kind of formed Malibu Creek State Park. And the park opened in 1976. There's another beautiful picture of the park. The docents, again, as I said, we're a 50-year-old nonprofit organization. And our mission is to basically make Malibu Creek State Park a nice place for people to visit, provide educational programs. We do a lot of restoration work, conservation work. And there's a little newsletter we had in the top left-hand side where some of the docents at Malibu Creek were writing to their representatives in California State Parks Recreation Commission to actually petition to form a state park. So we've been actively with the park since day one. There's another nice picture with President Reagan back in 1977 with some of the docents. And here's our today's docents. We're a group of roughly round numbers 80 people, and we volunteer at Malibu Creek State Park. So a little bit of context. How many have been to the visitor center at Malibu Creek State Park? Okay. So it's literally 7 miles from where we're standing. So it's a historic building. It's over 100 years old. As you see the picture on the top, historically had a grass lawn in the front, and the park was trying to maintain that historic look. And over the years, with the drought conditions, we pretty much gave up on it. And then after the Woolsey fire, the lawn burned down. Luckily, we had sprinklers on the visitor center, so it protected the building, and it survived the Woolsey fire. So then we decided to convert that to a native plant garden. We held a design competition in February of 24 with UCLA Department of Landscape Architecture. We had roughly about 20 different designs, and one of them became a successful design that we picked. And it's based on the Chumash Rainbow Bridge creation story. Basically, it's a very interesting story. As the design includes a kind of 4 parts to the garden. It kind of has 2 rainbow bridges that connect the past to the future. So that's kind of an intent behind the design. Then we have a plant palette. We have plants that bloom at different times of the year, up to 410 native plants from 35 different species. And we're collecting seeds from inside the park, basically, to show all the diversity of what's in the Malibu Creek State Park. What does that have to do with butterflies? Well, there you go. These are the butterflies that live at Malibu Creek. We have western swallowtail, Sarah orangetip, painted ladies, California sister, the monarch I've been talking about. In order to progress this project, we actually had to get it approved through the California State Park System. So we as volunteers work with our partners. We put together a project document. You had to go through several approval processes and finally got approved. This shows the aerial photo of the visitor center, and the arrow points to the location of the garden. And then you see Malibu Creek on the left side of the picture. So we started with that mess of weeds back in the middle of 2024. We cleared all the weeds, we put fabric, covered it with mulch, let it solarize for a while to kill all the seed bank. And then we applied for a grant to progress this project. We got a grant from California State Park Foundation to build a climate resilient garden. We started collecting seeds. These are our volunteers collecting seeds throughout the park. We have a plant list. The plant list basically carries a common name, scientific name, the photo of the plant, what family it's in, is it annual or perennial, the collection location where we collected the plant, information about the size, the bloom color, and then blooming season, and the method of propagation, was it cuttings or seeds, and then how many we need in our garden. And then once we got the funding from the California State Parks, we started doing the work as a part of the design. I showed you the bridges in the park, in the garden design. So we had some DG work with stabilized decomposed granite. They brought them on a truck. We pulled the mulch back, spread the DG, and then they used a kind of a glue stuff to destabilize the DG so it doesn't run off. And that's the completed DG pathways. There's an aerial shot of that. So there's the visitor center in this picture. To the left is the creek, Malibu Creek. There's basically 4 areas. The design, the front side, which is the future of the garden, is a manicured garden, which is going to be in the shape of a rainbow colors. Area on the opposite side, on the creek side, is like the past, kind of bridge between the past and the future. It's more of a natural looking garden. And then we have more grass and shrubs on both sides of the 2 garden rainbows. Then we started collecting seeds you saw there before. We propagate those in our nursery. We start with the seeds, and these are some milkweed seeds. We plant them in plates like that. Those are some cuttings. We go from there to 2-inch pots. It takes about, well, depending on time of the year, they grow slower in the wintertime than summer. From there, we go to 3-inch pots, and when they get to that size or larger, we're ready to plant them. So these are at the Malibu Creek State Park Nursery. This is just us back in February the 3rd, planting them in the garden. And then what we do is we put these milk cartons on top of them. How many of you guys have seen those in nature? Yeah. If you go to Chesbrook Canyon, there's like 10,000 of them. Milk cartons really help a lot with the plant because it's very hot in Southern California, protects them from sun, and also preserves as you water them. It kind of helps drive the water to the root of the plant. So if you go out there right now, you see about 46 of those milk cartons there. And as we complete the planting process, we'll have many more of them. So the project is pretty much on track. We're going to be finishing that by July of this year. And if you need any information, you can look up MalibuCreekStatePark.org and learn about our docents.
Thanks for inviting California Native Plant Society here tonight. My name is Mary Montez. I'm one of the horticulture chairs for the Los Angeles Santa Monica Mountains chapter of California Native Plant Society. And our main goal, CNPS's main goal, is to conserve the native plants and the land on which they're growing here in California. We do that through science, conservation, education, and gardening. And we have a chapter in every county in the state of California. So it's very true, monarch butterflies are in trouble, but the name of this seminar tonight is Butterflies in Bloom. So I'm going to speak to you about native butterflies in general. And I'm going to tell you how you yourself, in your own yard, by yourself, can have a profound impact on the decline of these beautiful pollinators. Yes, monarch butterflies are in trouble, but please realize this is not the only butterfly native to California, native to the Los Angeles basin, whose numbers have declined dramatically, just like the monarch. Many, many butterflies, pollinators, moths, insects. In general, all of the insects have suffered the same fate as the monarch butterflies. E.O. Wilson calls our pollinators the little things that run the world. So, how many people here understand that the monarch butterfly goes hand in hand with the milkweed? So we talked about that a lot tonight, right? That the milkweed is the host plant for the monarch. So many California native plants are also host plants for our native pollinators. This means that the native plant and the native pollinator have evolved together in a close relationship through many hundreds of thousands of the past years. And the host plant is the plant that the female must find to lay her eggs. As a matter of fact, if she does not find her host plant, she will not lay her eggs, and the next generation will die with her. Not only do monarchs have host plants, but so do over 90% of all other butterflies. As a matter of fact, over 90% of almost all of our insects have to have their own host plants. Therefore, for almost every butterfly and every other insect pollinator, what is of the utmost importance? The host plant. If you have narrow milkweed in your garden, you will be supporting monarchs. But what about the other butterflies? What about the green hair-streaked butterfly, the painted lady, the western swallowtail? What about their importance? These butterflies I mentioned are all native to the LA basin. Therefore, to support them, we need the plants that are native to the LA basin. And because you may see butterflies on oleander plants, on roses, on bird of paradise, flipping through the plants, getting onto them for their nectar, you might think, see, these butterflies, they don't need native plants. They're on the plants in my garden. So those people at CNPS, they're just being too picky. You might think that, but you will be wrong. Non-native plants. Plants that are not native to this area will not provide any of our butterflies with the host plant she needs to lay her eggs and start the next generation. Native pollinators and butterflies will use many plants for nectar, but they will not recognize any of these plants as something they can lay their eggs on. They know that those plants will not support their caterpillars. So they will not lay their eggs on a plant where they know their caterpillars are just going to die. Okay, so why did we have this long discussion on California native plants and non-native plants and host plants? Because I want to tell you that everyone here can help save the monarch butterfly and all the other butterflies that are native to the LA Basin. It's very, very simple. You don't need to wait for a government agency. You don't need to wait for permission to restore some habitat in the Santa Monica Mountains. You, everyone here, you by yourself, you can clear out a little corner of your front yard or your backyard. You can put in a few native plants. No one is asking you to hire a landscaper, take out all your lawn, spend $1,000. No. All you have to do is pick a spot in your front yard or your backyard, put in a few native plants. If you do it now, you will have butterflies this summer. That's all it takes. I can tell you that when we have native plant sales and we put out 1,000 native plants in 1-gallon pots, within hours, we have butterflies flying everywhere. That's all it takes. Some of those host plants that can support butterflies can even be grown in big pots if you don't have a yard. Putting in California native plants allows you on a personal level to impact the pollinator decline and to impact climate change yourself. Because now you understand that plant choice matters. So just think, what could Calabasas look like if every single person here put in a few native plants in their yard, in the corner? What could Calabasas look like this summer? You could have butterflies everywhere. And like Ari said, why does it have to be you? Why does it have to be the homeowners? Because 80% of the United States is privately owned. We don't have enough parks, we don't have enough forests to supply all the butterflies and all the insects with the host plants they need. This is why homeowners are so critical, why you can make a dramatic impact on monarch butterflies and all the butterflies that are native to the LA Basin. So we have a booth over there in the corner. Please come by our booth. We're going to show you how to use California Native Plant Society's website, which is called Calscape, to find all the plants that are native to your zip code. What is it? 91302. We're going to show you how to do that. We also have a list of 3 pieces of paper, has native plants listed, and the specific butterfly that uses that native plant as a plant. Very good, very good. Okay, that's it. I hope to see you all over there later.
Thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Chris, Cesson, and Mary. You were very, very educational, and we are all looking forward to visiting the booths. We have free milkweed. We're going to have Melanie's. Melanie's, do you have the free milkweed? Oh, she has the big box back there. Are you going to bring it up here? Okay, she's bringing it up here. Now we're going to get to question and answers. Does anybody have any questions for the panelists? We have a microphone, and Whitney is going to come to you if you have any questions. Okay, we have no questions. So on this note, we're going to end it with a quick takeaway from the panelists. Ari, do you have a takeaway that you might give everyone?
I have a 5 by 7 foot small area in my yard, and we get lots of different caterpillars and insects. And so it doesn't have to be your whole yard. Anyone can plant it and make a difference.
My question is just, well, it's twofold. Number one, you obviously are going to tell us where we can buy these native plants. Yes. But secondly, how can we get our local Home Depot, all our local garden centers to, what can we do to get them to stock plants that work?
Yeah, great question.
Business to make money. They're not in business to improve the environment. So there's lots of places you can buy native plants, and in my opinion, you should just do that and don't worry about what Home Depot's doing.
List right now, in case some people don't get to go back to your booth, where can we in this community locally go buy those?
I can tell you 2 places, very good places, very local. One, Ari mentioned, Theodore Payne Foundation in Sun Valley. Go the other way, in Camarillo is Growing Works Nursery. Growing Works is half native, half non-native. Theodore Payne is all native.
You can also start your own little nursery. It's pretty easy. You can order seeds online, get pots, and it makes it a lot more fun. But buying them is great too, but it is fun to grow your own.
I'd also like to add that the Las Virgenes Municipal Water District gives a gift to a resident if you are acknowledged as the Native Plant Garden of the Year, which I was a recipient of. And I would like you all to know that when you have a native garden, your garden is so colorful. You do not need to have the non-native plants to have a colorful garden. You could have all native and have every color in your garden, and it will be magnificent.
Okay, real quickly, Chris, do you have any takeaway?
I'm really impressed that this many people came out, and great to see the community is coming behind basically issues and projects like this. But I think the key takeaway is get involved. Get involved in a way where you can not only learn something, saving wildlife, saving pollinators, saving trees, but teach somebody else. You know, I think that's how generational knowledge is going to work, because we're just getting more populated, we're developing more, we're losing our open spaces. And I think that's going to be the key, is to get involved, save those spaces as you can. Because really, when 2080 rolls around and nobody knows what a monarch butterfly looks like, it's going to be pretty sad. So keep up the good work.
The city of Calabasas, since its inception 35 years ago, has built a website and a knowledge base, and all of these folks who are on the various commissions, and not just the Environmental Commission, but all the commissions deal with issues that are important to everything you've talked about tonight. If the folks, if they aren't actually responding in City Hall, at the cityofcalabasas.com, there's all kinds of information that allows you to express your view about commercial business or native plants or any of that. So go to the website and then talk to your council members or your commissioners. They're all here to make it possible to make a significant shift in this community. And this is our 35th year, and our 35th anniversary promise should be that we are looking to preserve our natural environment.
Thank you, Dennis. Does anybody else have any questions before we go back to Sasan? Oh, we've got a question in the back. Okay, here we come. What is your name?
Georgia Goldfarb, and I'm with the Malibu Monarch Project here.
So we have information, but that wasn't why I wanted to say something. Actually, it's a couple of quick comments. One is that the work that Chip Taylor from Kansas University has done through Monarch Watch, which you can also get milkweeds from, and they will ship them to you. You just pay the shipping cost. They're free otherwise, and you get flats of them. So that's one thing. But the other thing is he's done significant work along with other colleagues, including some from Australia, that show that temperature is one of the critical factors in monarchs breaking diapause. So when they come and they expect diapauses when they overwinter. So when they do that and it's warm, they're up and about and mating and eating, and so that is also a factor in their breaking diapause. And the other thing is, besides Monarch Watch, you have the fabulous and wonderful SAMO Fund here, where you can get milkweeds, you can do internships. They're out by Satwiwa. It's run and led by Antonio Sanchez, who's just a wonderful, wonderful person, and he has milkweeds that grow in 3 months, and they're already, I couldn't believe it. They're already blooming. So he's really wonderful. And he had a grant a couple of years ago for 100,000 milkweeds. And 50,000 of them, I believe, were distributed to the mountains here, and 50,000 to folks in less advantaged areas that maybe couldn't afford them. So it was really a remarkable work, and he's fabulous, and you can volunteer.
Well, that's great information. So stop by her booth and get more information if you're interested. Does anybody else have any other questions?
My name is Sandy Glover, and you have this beautiful image on your screen, but that is a terrible non-native plant that's destroying habitat. We have to, that's mustard, and it's destroying habitat at an alarming rate. So we've got some samples of some of the worst weeds in our area. So come by and have a look and learn what's not native and pull it out of your yard.
We're going to go back to Sasan. We're almost done, and then I have some milkweed to give away. Is there any other questions for the panelists in the audience? Okay, we're going to go back to Sasan. And do you have a takeaway?
Yes, just two messages. Just get involved, support your park. Come and visit Malibu Creek State Park as this garden gets finalized, and you're always welcome to join us and volunteer. So we also work with Sama Fund. They're helping us with this garden, and we volunteer over there. They have a lot of expertise. Antonio is a great guy, a lot of pragmatic, practical experience. So yeah, just invite you to get involved and come and Malibu Creek is part of Calabasas.
Great. And Mary?
Support native plants. Get yourself some native plants, get them in your yard, and see what happens. Call us if you have any questions. Just Google CNPS Los Angeles chapter. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much to all the panelists. And thank you, everyone, for coming. Please stop by all the tables, and there's a lot of giveaways. Also up here, we have the free milk packets, and they are complimentary, and they're donated by Sperber Landscape. So please come up and get some milkweed and go start your garden.